In a world that's constantly moving, constantly demanding answers, constantly shouting for attention, what if I told you that the most powerful tool at your disposal isn't your voice, but your silence? Think about it for a moment. How often do we rush to respond, to justify ourselves, to react in the heat of the moment? We live in an era where the loudest voice often feels like the one that wins. But what if that isn't the true path to influence? What if silence, not noise, is the secret weapon of the most powerful people in history? In this video, we're going to explore something that's often overlooked: the power of silence and patience in shaping your success. You may have heard the saying, silence is golden, but it's not just a cliche, it's a strategy that can elevate you, whether in personal relationships, business, or leadership. Socrates, Steve Jobs, Miyamoto Musashi, these iconic figures didn't dominate through constant chatter. They used silence and patience as weapons. They understood that in the quiet moments, in the pauses, that's where true power lies. But how does this apply to your life today? How can you use silence to gain the upper hand, avoid emotional traps, and ultimately control the narrative in your favor? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll discover how to harness silence and patience to gain influence, build stronger relationships, and make better decisions, all without saying a word. Before we dive into this powerful topic, if you're new here, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video that could change the way you think about power and success. And don't forget, if you find this video valuable, show your support by donating a super thanks. It helps us keep creating content that matters for you. Now, let's unlock the power of silence. Silence, often perceived as a lack of voice or opinion, holds a power that many fail to understand. It's easy to assume that being outspoken, speaking up, and asserting one's presence is the way to show strength and gain influence. However, silence can be a far more potent tool, not because it reflects weakness or passivity, but because it grants those who wield it the ability to control their emotions, the situation, and the narrative. True power is not in loud declarations, but in knowing when not to speak. Silence, when used strategically, allows one to observe, analyze, and act only when it is most impactful, giving the impression of control and authority. The concept of silence as power is central to understanding how influential figures navigate the world around them. Take a moment to think about the last argument or heated discussion you were part of. In those moments, how many times did you feel the urge to respond quickly, to prove your point, or to justify yourself? Now consider the times when you held back, when you chose not to react immediately. Did the situation change? Were you able to maintain composure and control the conversation, perhaps even without saying a word? This shift is often the mark of true power, the power to remain unaffected by the noise around you, the power to choose when and how to respond, if at all. The ability to remain silent is a sign of emotional intelligence. It shows that a person is not easily swayed by their immediate impulses or by the desire to be heard. In contrast, those who cannot stay silent often reveal their emotional state through their words. They might speak in haste, in anger, or in a bid for validation. Every word they speak reflects their internal struggles, insecurities, or need for approval. Conversely, the person who chooses silence holds their cards close to their chest, letting the world around them play itself out. Silence becomes their shield, their tool for maintaining power. This isn't to say that silence means inactivity or passivity. In fact, those who use silence as a tool of power are often the most deliberate and calculated in their actions. They understand that words, once spoken, cannot be unsaid. Every word is a commitment, an offering that leaves you vulnerable to the interpretation of others. By speaking less, these individuals minimize the risk of giving away too much information. Their silence speaks volumes because it creates a space where others are left wondering, speculating, and trying to understand their next move. One of the most striking examples of silence as a power strategy comes from Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Jobs was known for his exceptional ability to generate anticipation around his product launches, But what made him particularly unique was his use of silence. He did not feel the need to speak constantly or overshare about the next big project. Instead, he kept his plans under wraps until the precise moment when the reveal would have the maximum impact. His silence created a sense of mystery and anticipation. When he finally did speak, when he unveiled a new product, the world listened because every word he spoke was deliberate, purposeful, and meaningful. Jobs' use of silence made his words and actions far more significant. People didn't just hear what he said. They analyzed it, interpreted it, and eagerly awaited his next move. Imagine if he had spoken more frequently or shared too much information in advance. His words would have lost their power, and his products might not have had the same cultural impact. Silence, in this context, became a tool for creating intrigue, building suspense, and ensuring that when Jobs did speak, it was heard loud and clear. Another example of silence being a tool of power can be found in the world of politics. Consider the tactics of some of the most influential leaders throughout history, such as Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln, during times of deep national division in the United States, was known for his measured, thoughtful speeches and, just as importantly, his moments of silence. He knew that sometimes the most powerful thing a leader could do was to listen, to let others speak their mind, and to allow the weight of the silence to communicate strength and composure. His ability to pause and reflect before responding gave him the space to craft his thoughts carefully and avoid reacting hastily. In times of crisis, this skill helped Lincoln maintain the trust of the public and the respect of his peers. In fact, some of the most respected leaders in history mastered the art of strategic silence. They didn't feel the need to constantly assert themselves through words. Instead, they allowed their actions and decisions to speak for them, letting others fill in the gaps, speculate, and try to understand the next move. This sense of mystery, coupled with the silence that preceded their actions, created an aura of power around them. Silence can also serve as a tool for introspection and self-control. People who are comfortable with silence are often more self-aware and better able to manage their emotions. They do not feel the need to fill every moment with conversation or noise because they're secure in their ability to listen, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. This kind of emotional control is a key element of leadership. Leaders who use silence as a tool demonstrate that they are not easily swayed by their emotions or the pressures of the moment. They act with intention and purpose, rather than reacting out of fear or insecurity. This ability to maintain composure is especially important in high-stakes environments, such as business negotiations, courtroom trials, or political debates. In these settings, emotions can run high, and the temptation to speak impulsively or react emotionally is strong. However, those who can remain calm and silent have a distinct advantage. Their silence gives them time to think, to consider all of their options, and to make decisions without the pressure of immediate reaction. They are less likely to make mistakes or say something they will regret later. Instead, they control the pace of the conversation, choosing when to speak and when to hold back. Moreover, silence is not just about control in the moment, it is also about timing. The ability to know when to speak and when to remain quiet is crucial in managing perception. When someone speaks too often or too loudly, they risk losing their influence. Their words become diluted and they become predictable. However, when someone speaks only when necessary, their words take on greater weight and significance. The rare moments when they do speak become opportunities to make a powerful statement, to offer insight, or to guide others. Consider the strategy of some of the most effective negotiators. These individuals understand that power in negotiation is not about overwhelming the other side with words or demands. Instead, they use silence as a tool to let the other side fill the gaps, to reveal their hand, or to make concessions. In many cases, the person who remains quiet during a negotiation has the upper hand. By not reacting immediately or giving away their own position, they maintain control over the flow of the conversation and increase their chances of securing a favorable outcome. Even in personal relationships, silence can be a tool of power. In the midst of a heated argument, one person's ability to remain silent can completely alter the dynamics of the conversation. The person who remains silent doesn't necessarily win, but they often gain the respect of the other party. They demonstrate emotional control, maturity, and the ability to not be provoked. Silence can be a way of asserting boundaries and refusing to engage in unnecessary conflict. When one person refuses to argue, it often forces the other person to confront their own emotions and rethink their position. In this sense, silence can be seen as a form of nonviolent resistance. It is a way of refusing to be pulled into the chaos of an argument or dispute. Rather than fighting fire with fire, silence allows the person to remain grounded, centered, and in control. By not responding, they take away the power of the other person to provoke or control them. This is particularly effective in situations where emotions are running high and the risk of saying something regrettable is strong. Ultimately, the power of silence lies in its ability to convey strength, control, and composure. Those who understand the strategic value of silence are able to navigate difficult situations with grace and intelligence. They know that silence is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of emotional maturity and self-mastery. It allows them to observe, reflect, and respond thoughtfully without being swept away by the emotional currents of the moment. The real strength of silence is that it enables the individual to dictate the terms of engagement. They are not subject to the whims of others or the pressure to react immediately. Instead, they are able to maintain control over their actions, their emotions, and their interactions. Silence, in this sense, becomes a tool for creating influence and maintaining power. In a world that often values noise, action, and immediacy, the ability to remain silent is a rare and valuable skill. Silence is often regarded as a passive act, something that occurs when there is nothing to say, a void between words. But in reality, silence is far more powerful than mere absence. It is a strategic tool, a way of asserting control without uttering a single word. True power does not lie in constant chatter or the volume of one's voice. It lies in the ability to use silence to manipulate situations, control emotions, and guide the flow of events in one's favor. When used effectively, silence becomes a force that commands respect, creates space, and forces others to confront their own thoughts and actions. One of the most striking aspects of silence as a tool for power is its ability to disrupt and confuse others. People who are in control of a situation, whether in business, personal relationships, or politics, understand that there are times when speaking too much can diminish their influence. They also understand that by strategically remaining silent, they force the other person to fill the gap with their own words and, often, with their own insecurities. In essence, silence becomes a weapon that makes others uncomfortable, forcing them to fill the void with unnecessary explanations or actions. Think about the times when you've been in an argument or discussion with someone, and instead of reacting immediately, you chose to stay silent. In that silence, the other person often becomes uneasy, try to fill the gap with more words or justifications. This discomfort is a sign that silence has power to create an imbalance. Power to make the other person question their position, and power to turn the dynamic in your favor without lifting a finger. In leadership, silence is a key attribute of those who possess true authority. Leaders who can remain composed and not rush to fill the silence with words are often the most effective. Take, for example, the leadership style of Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history. Buffett is known for his calm, measured responses and his ability to remain silent when others may be scrambling to provide answers. His silence forces others to think before speaking, creating an environment where thoughtful decision-making thrives over impulsive actions. By remaining silent when necessary, Buffett makes it clear that his opinions, when voiced, are worth listening to. He doesn't feel the need to speak for the sake of speaking. His silence speaks volumes, letting others know that he is in control of the situation. In the business world, Silence is often used as a negotiation tactic. Negotiators understand that the most effective way to gain an upper hand is not by filling every silence with chatter, but by allowing the other party to speak and reveal their position. The silence forces the other side to make concessions, reveal weaknesses, or over-explain. By withholding a response, a negotiator can create a power dynamic where the other side feels the need to justify their position. Silence in this context can expose vulnerabilities, giving the person who remains silent an advantage. In fact, many high-level negotiations involve long pauses, where one party remains silent while the other talks to fill the void. The one who can remain silent the longest often emerges victorious, having guided the conversation without saying a word. This power of silence is not limited to high-stakes business deals or political maneuvering. It also applies in everyday conversations. How many times have you been in a discussion where you felt the need to respond immediately, only to realize later that your silence would have been more powerful? Sometimes, staying silent in the face of provocation allows the other person to reveal more about themselves than they intended. In relationships, for example, silence can be a way of maintaining dignity and not engaging in unproductive conflict. When someone is trying to provoke you, remaining silent shows that you are not emotionally controlled by them. It also forces them to reconsider their approach, as they are not getting the reaction they expect. In these situations, silence serves as a method of emotional control. People who react impulsively or feel compelled to speak out immediately often reveal more about their emotional state than they realize. Anger, frustration, and insecurity often surface when we feel the need to justify ourselves. Silence, on the other hand, allows us to control our emotional responses, to take a step back and think before we react. This is especially important in high-pressure situations, where impulsive reactions can lead to regrettable consequences. For instance, in a workplace scenario, imagine being in a heated meeting where your ideas are being challenged. The instinct might be to defend yourself and assert your viewpoint, but doing so can escalate the situation and make you appear defensive. On the other hand, choosing silence allows you to assess the situation, consider your options, and make a more calculated response. It gives you the space to think clearly and avoid reacting out of emotion. By remaining silent, you maintain control over your emotions and the situation, ensuring that when you do speak, your words are measured, thoughtful, and impactful. This ability to control the emotional dynamics of a situation is one of the key aspects of leadership. Leaders who are able to stay calm and collected, who know when to speak and when to remain silent, are far more effective than those who rush to fill every silence with words. Silence, in this sense, is a sign of confidence and emotional intelligence. It shows that you are not easily rattled by external pressures and that you have the ability to think clearly in moments of stress. Furthermore, silence can also serve as a powerful tool for self-reflection. In the chaos of daily life, it is easy to get caught up in the noise and distractions around us. However, when we take the time to embrace silence, we create the space for introspection and self-awareness. Silence allows us to listen to our own thoughts, to reflect on our goals and actions, and to better understand ourselves. In moments of silence, we can find clarity and make decisions that are aligned with our true values and desires. It is in these moments of quiet contemplation that we can develop a deeper understanding of our purpose and the direction we want our lives to take. The act of remaining silent also demonstrates patience, a quality that is often overlooked in a world that demands instant results. People who can remain silent and patient in the face of pressure are able to see beyond immediate circumstances and focus on long-term goals. Patience allows us to wait for the right moment to act, to avoid rushing into decisions that may not serve us in the future. It is in these moments of waiting that we develop the resilience and foresight needed to succeed. In summary, silence is a powerful tool for controlling emotions and situations. It allows us to think before we act, to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively, and to create a sense of authority and composure. By mastering the art of silence, we not only gain control over external situations, but also cultivate emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength, patience, and wisdom. In a world that is often loud and chaotic, those who can master silence will find themselves in control of their own emotions, their relationships, and their future. Throughout history, there have been numerous figures who have used silence as a tool for power and influence. Silence, when strategically employed, has the ability to command respect, create anticipation, and control the narrative. These individuals understood that words can often diminish the value of their thoughts, while silence amplifies their presence. Silence isn't merely a lack of sound. It is a calculated pause, a moment of reflection, and a weapon in the arsenal of those who know how to wield it. Socrates, Steve Jobs, and Miyamoto Musashi are some of the most iconic figures who use silence and the art of restraint to their advantage, each employing it in different contexts but with a common thread. The mastery of silence is the key to influence. Socrates, the great Greek philosopher, is often considered the master of using silence strategically through the art of questioning. His method, known as the Socratic method, involved asking probing questions to help individuals uncover truths on their own, rather than imposing his own ideas upon them. Socrates believed that people could not truly learn if they were simply told what was right or wrong. Instead, he used questions to make them reflect, critically think, and come to their own conclusions. By remaining silent and allowing others to speak, Socrates positioned himself as a guide, rather than a lecturer. This approach encouraged deep self-examination and intellectual growth. What Socrates understood was the power of silence and dialogue. When he asked questions, he didn't fill the conversation with his own opinions. Instead, he gave the other person space to think, to form their own responses, and to reflect on their assumptions. In this way, Socrates' silence allowed him to control the direction of the conversation without dominating it with his voice. This approach often led others to realize truths they hadn't considered before. And the recognition of these truths became even more powerful because they were discovered by the person themselves, not imposed from the outside. The effectiveness of Socrates' approach lies in the understanding that silence is not just about saying nothing. It's about knowing when to let others speak, when to let them process their thoughts, and when to allow silence to become a mirror that reflects their own understanding. By choosing silence strategically, Socrates didn't merely engage in conversation, he reshaped the way people thought, which is why his influence has lasted for millennia. Fast forward to the world of business, where Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, used silence as a strategic tool in product launches and brand messaging. Jobs wasn't someone who constantly bombarded the public with new products or updates. In fact, he would often allow long periods of silence between Apple's major product releases. This silence, however, was intentional and worked to build anticipation. By not constantly talking about new innovations, Jobs created a sense of mystery around Apple's next move. This anticipation made each new product launch a cultural event, with the world waiting on edge to see what the next groundbreaking product from Apple would be. Jobs' use of silence in product launches was a form of strategic pacing. He knew that people would pay attention when he spoke, but he also understood that less frequent, more deliberate announcements would make his words and actions carry more weight. The periods of silence between launches gave Apple time to innovate and develop products that would truly impress the world. When he finally revealed something, it wasn't just another product, it was something that had been meticulously crafted, and the silence in the interim only heightened its impact. This strategy is not unique to Jobs. It's a concept used in the world of entertainment, business, and marketing all over the world. By withholding constant updates or information, a sense of exclusivity is created. People begin to wonder, what's next? What are they working on? This is the power of silence at work. It creates a sense of rarity and anticipation. Each announcement becomes more than just a product launch. It becomes an event that commands the attention of the masses. Jobs understood this dynamic better than almost anyone in modern business. And his use of silence was integral to Apple's success. Similarly, in the world of martial arts and strategy, the legendary Japanese samurai Miyamoto Musashi demonstrated the strategic use of silence and patience in his approach to combat and life. Musashi was not only a master swordsman, but also a philosopher who believed that the true battle was won before the sword was ever drawn. He understood that emotions, especially fear and anger, could cloud judgment and hinder performance. For Musashi, the key to success was maintaining composure, staying patient, and waiting for the right moment to act. One of the most famous concepts Musashi taught was the idea of winning without fighting. In his iconic book, The Book of Five Rings, he emphasized that the battle isn't always won by the quickest or strongest person, but by the one who remains calm, who can wait for the right moment, and who controls their emotions. The ability to stay silent in the midst of a chaotic battle is a skill that Musashi mastered, and it allowed him to wait until the opponent's defenses were down, giving him the opportunity to strike with precision. Musashi's mastery of silence wasn't just about his physical control over his environment. It was about his ability to control his own thoughts and emotions. He knew that hasty actions, driven by emotion, could lead to mistakes. Silence gave him the space to think, to observe, and to prepare for the next move. In combat, this silence wasn't about an action, but about strategy. Musashi used silence to prepare himself mentally for the confrontation ahead, knowing that the one who could control their emotions and remain calm would have the upper hand. This concept extends beyond physical combat into the realm of personal and professional life. The ability to remain silent in high-pressure situations can be just as powerful as the ability to act decisively. People who are emotionally reactive, who cannot control their impulses, often find themselves making hasty decisions that lead to regret. On the other hand, those who can hold their emotions in check and use silence as a tool of self-control can make better decisions, remain focused, and ultimately achieve greater success. The use of silence by Socrates, Steve Jobs, and Miyamoto Musashi demonstrates that silence is not a passive act, but an active and strategic one. It requires a deep understanding of timing, self-control, and emotional intelligence. Silence allows for reflection, introspection, and clarity. In each of their respective fields, philosophy, business, and combat, these figures demonstrated that the greatest power often lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Their mastery of silence gave them the ability to control the narrative, shape outcomes, and influence others without uttering a word. In the modern world, silence remains a powerful tool. Whether in negotiations, leadership, or personal relationships, the ability to remain silent and not react impulsively is a valuable skill. In a society that often values constant communication and immediate reactions, silence stands out as a mark of strength and composure. Like Socrates, Jobs, and Musashi, those who can use silence to their advantage can control the conversation, create anticipation, and lead with authority. In the end, the art of silence is about more than just withholding words. It's about knowing how to use silence to your advantage. It's about creating space, controlling emotions, and making decisions with clarity and intention. Those who master this art can influence others, shape the future, and achieve greatness not through noise, but through the power of quiet presence and strategic restraint. Patience is often viewed as a virtue, but in the context of power, it is much more than that. It is a vital asset. Power doesn't always stem from asserting dominance, arguing, or trying to convince others of your correctness. In fact, true power often arises from the ability to wait, to pause, and to act only when the moment is right. In a world that constantly values speed, instant gratification, and quick decisions, patience stands as a powerful counterbalance. It is the quiet strength that allows a person to maintain control over themselves and their environment, to avoid rash mistakes, and to position themselves for long-term success. Think about the nature of power itself. It's not something that's achieved by constantly pushing or demanding attention. True power lies in the ability to manage one's impulses, to wait for the right moment to speak, act, or intervene. When you think about the most successful individuals in any field, whether in business, politics, or even personal relationships, you'll notice that those who exercise patience tend to have the most profound influence. Patience allows them to navigate situations with a clear mind, not reacting impulsively, but waiting for an opportunity that maximizes their chances of success. In contrast, those who lack patience often find themselves making hasty decisions that lead to mistakes. The modern world is filled with constant distractions and pressures to act quickly. We live in an age of immediacy. Messages must be answered now. Decisions must be made immediately, and results are expected quickly. In such an environment, those who can remain patient, who can take the time to reflect and act with purpose, stand apart from the rest. They don't get swept up in the urgency of the moment, but rather hold their ground, waiting for the best possible opportunity to emerge. This is a concept that is seen in many great leaders throughout history. For example, Warren Buffett, the renowned investor, is often cited as someone who embodies the power of patience. Buffett is known for his long-term investment strategies, focusing on companies with potential for growth over years, if not decades. Unlike other investors who may buy and sell stocks on a whim, Buffett waits for the right opportunity, often buying companies when their stock prices are undervalued. He's not in a rush to make quick profits. Instead, he's patient, waiting for his investments to mature and create long-term value. His ability to wait, to not give in to the urgency of the stock market, has made him one of the most successful investors of all time. Patience, in this sense, isn't passive. It's not about sitting idly by while things happen around you. Patience is active. It requires a sense of control, a decision to observe and wait rather than react impulsively. The ability to wait for the right moment to act requires self-discipline and emotional intelligence. It's about knowing that time will reveal the right opportunity and that jumping in too early might ruin a perfect situation. In business, patience is crucial for success, especially in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs who succeed aren't those who jump into every new trend without thought. They're the ones who carefully assess the market, consider the long-term impact of their decisions, and take calculated risks. One example that comes to mind is Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Bezos is known for his long-term vision. When he started Amazon, he didn't expect to make a profit immediately. In fact, he spent years building the company without any short-term rewards. His patience in waiting for Amazon to become a global powerhouse ultimately paid off, and now Amazon is one of the most successful companies in the world. Patience is equally important in negotiations. In a negotiation, there's often a temptation to rush to a decision, to accept the first offer that comes along, or to push too hard for one's own position. However, successful negotiators understand the power of waiting, of letting the other party speak, of letting the conversation unfold naturally. By remaining patient and not rushing to close a deal, a negotiator can often find more favorable terms, better understand the needs of the other party, and come up with creative solutions that benefit both sides. Take, for example, the negotiation strategies of Nelson Mandela, who played a pivotal role in dismantling apartheid in South Africa. Mandela's patience was legendary. He spent 27 years in prison, not only enduring the hardships of incarceration, but also using that time to develop a strategic vision for the future of his country. He did not rush to negotiate with the apartheid government, but instead waited for the right moment when both sides were ready for dialogue. His patience allowed him to emerge as a leader who could unite a divided nation and negotiate a peaceful end to apartheid, something that many believed would never happen. Mandela's ability to wait, to be patient in his approach, was a key factor in his success. In personal relationships, patience also plays a critical role. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional, require time to develop trust, understanding, and respect. Rushing through these stages can lead to misunderstandings, frustration, and resentment. Patience allows individuals to listen, understand, and engage with others at a deeper level. It enables people to give others the time and space they need to express themselves, to grow, and to contribute to the relationship. In romantic relationships, for instance, rushing into commitments or demanding immediate results can lead to feelings of pressure or inadequacy. Patience, on the other hand, fosters a sense of calm and confidence, creating an environment where both parties can thrive without feeling rushed. Patience is also an essential component of emotional regulation. Many people struggle with their emotions because they feel pressure to respond immediately to situations that trigger their feelings. Whether it's anger, frustration, or anxiety, people often react impulsively in these situations, which can lead to regrettable outcomes. But those who practice patience are able to step back, assess the situation, and respond thoughtfully. By allowing themselves the time to process their emotions, they are better equipped to deal with conflicts constructively. This not only strengthens their relationships with others, but also contributes to their own emotional well-being. One area where patience is particularly crucial is in the pursuit of personal goals. People who set ambitious goals often want immediate results. They want to see progress quickly, and when they don't, they may get discouraged. However, the most successful people are those who are willing to put in the work over time, knowing that true success doesn't come overnight. It's the ability to stay the course, to remain patient, and to keep working toward the long-term goal, even when progress is slow. This is where the value of patience truly shines. It allows people to keep their eyes on the bigger picture, to weather the inevitable challenges that arise, and to continue pushing forward despite setbacks. Patience also allows us to be more present in the moment. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the rush, to always be thinking about what's next, or to be constantly chasing the next big thing. But by practicing patience, we can focus on what's happening right now, making the most of every moment. This doesn't mean ignoring the future. It means being able to enjoy the present without constantly feeling the need to move forward. In terms of time management, those who possess patience are often able to use their time more wisely. They are less likely to waste time on distractions or meaningless tasks because they understand that time is a finite resource. By being patient, they prioritize their time more effectively, focusing on what truly matters. They recognize that sometimes the best way to make progress is by slowing down, taking a step back, and reflecting before acting. In a world that constantly encourages speed, impatience, and instant results, patience has become a rare and valuable commodity. Those who possess it are often the ones who find the greatest success, whether in business, relationships, or personal growth. Patience allows us to avoid rash decisions, to wait for the right moment, and to navigate the complexities of life with clarity and composure. It is a skill that not only helps us achieve our goals, but also enhances our overall well-being, giving us the space to reflect, learn, and grow. Ultimately, patience is not about sitting idle or passively waiting for things to happen. It's about having the foresight to understand that some things take time, and that rushing toward outcomes often leads to mistakes and missed opportunities. Patience allows us to align our actions with our goals and values, ensuring that every step we take is deliberate and purposeful. In the end, those who can master the art of patience are the ones who will ultimately achieve lasting success and fulfillment. Silence is often perceived as passive, as a mere absence of sound, yet holds incredible power when used as a strategic tool. In many situations, particularly in the realm of influence, silence is far more than just not speaking. It is an active decision, a calculated move that shifts the dynamics of power. While speaking often invites judgment or reaction, silence demands attention. It's the pause between actions, the quiet before the storm, the stillness that forces others to reflect, to rethink, and to often reveal more than they intended. When used effectively, Silence becomes a weapon, one that doesn't only withhold information, but manipulates the flow of a conversation or situation in such a way that the silent party remains in control. One of the most powerful aspects of silence is its ability to create uncertainty. When we remain silent in the midst of a conversation, especially when there is an expectation for us to react, we immediately put the other person in a position where they are unsure of how to proceed. The other party becomes uncertain of where we stand, what we think, and how we feel. This uncertainty creates a psychological tension, which works to our advantage. People naturally want to fill gaps in conversation with information, but when we withhold that information, we make them uncomfortable. The longer we remain silent, the more they feel compelled to speak, often revealing things they did not plan to. Take, for instance, the art of negotiation. In many high-stakes business negotiations, silence is used as a weapon to create leverage. Imagine you are in a meeting discussing a deal with the other party. You've stated your terms, and now it's their turn to respond. Instead of filling the silence with more words, you remain quiet, making direct eye contact and waiting. The other party, feeling the discomfort of silence, is forced to speak. In their rush to fill that space, they might offer concessions, reveal their weaknesses, or even make a mistake in their decision-making process. By not responding immediately, you are controlling the flow of the conversation, forcing the other party to act on your terms. This principle applies to many aspects of life, whether in business, relationships, or personal confrontations. In moments of conflict, silence can be the most powerful response. For example, in a heated argument, if one person chooses to remain silent, they force the other person to engage with the conversation in a different way. The one who is silent does not feel the need to defend themselves, and in doing so, they convey strength. The person who continues to argue, on the other hand, often ends up revealing more of their own vulnerabilities and emotional investment. They may find themselves becoming more defensive, more agitated, and ultimately, they may lose control of the situation. Consider the way many great leaders throughout history have utilized silence. Winston Churchill, for instance, was known for his sharp speeches during World War II, but he was also a master of strategic silence. He knew that sometimes the most powerful statement he could make was no statement at all. During critical moments, he would often remain silent, letting the weight of the situation speak for itself. His silence during these times sent a powerful message of resolve, of confidence, and of unshakable leadership. People didn't need to hear him speak to understand his determination. They could see it in his actions and in the power of his silence. This approach to silence is also reflected in the world of professional sports. The best athletes, particularly in individual sports like tennis or boxing, understand the power of silence in the face of pressure. Consider a tennis player in a crucial match where every point counts. The ability to stay calm, composed, and silent during moments of high tension is a sign of mental toughness. Players who can remain silent, both internally and externally, during a match are able to control their emotions and focus on the task at hand. In contrast, players who let their emotions dictate their reactions are often the ones who lose focus and make mistakes. Silence, in this context, is a tool for maintaining control and composure. Silence can also increase one's perceived value. In a world where everyone is constantly speaking, sharing opinions, and broadcasting their thoughts, the person who chooses silence creates an air of mystery. People are naturally drawn to what they don't understand, and silence cultivates that sense of mystery. When you don't immediately reveal your thoughts, others will seek to understand you. They will try to fill the gaps with their own interpretations, which often leads them to assign greater importance to your words and actions when you do choose to speak. This is particularly important in the realm of personal branding. Think about the most influential figures in the world today. Many of them rarely speak unless they have something significant to say. Apple's co-founder, Steve Jobs, was a master of creating anticipation and curiosity around his product releases. He didn't constantly update the public or share every piece of information about Apple's progress. Instead, he used silence strategically, allowing the mystery of the company and its products to build over time. When he finally did speak, when a new product was launched, the world listened because he had built up an air of exclusivity and anticipation around his words. The rare appearances and carefully crafted presentations made each word he said more valuable, more significant. His silence between product launches only heightened the public's interest in what was coming next. In social settings, silence can also make an individual appear more valuable and respected. In any group conversation, the person who speaks the least often ends up having the most attention when they do speak. This is because their words carry more weight. People are eager to hear what they have to say, and when they do speak, they command a room. This isn't about being a passive observer. It's about understanding when to speak and when to remain quiet. By withholding information, you create a sense of intrigue, and people are drawn to you because they want to know more. This dynamic is often seen in leadership positions. The best leaders understand that their words are precious and should not be wasted. By speaking less, they create an environment where their words have greater impact. When they do speak, people listen intently because they have established a track record of only speaking when necessary. This doesn't mean that these leaders are silent all the time. It means they understand the value of silence and how to use it to their advantage. They know that by choosing when to speak, they can maintain their authority and influence over the group. Silence also helps individuals remain centered and grounded, especially in times of chaos or stress. When the world around us is fast-paced and filled with noise, taking a moment of silence can help us regain control of our thoughts and emotions. In the midst of a crisis, those who can maintain silence and calmness often find the clear solutions. They don't rush to fill the silence with words or distractions. Instead, they use the silence to assess the situation, weigh their options, and act with clarity. This ability to stay silent in the face of pressure is often what separates successful people from those who falter under stress. This control over silence can also be a powerful form of nonverbal communication. Consider the case of a person who is in a disagreement or confrontation with someone. Instead of engaging in a verbal back and forth, they choose to remain silent, holding their ground without saying a word. In doing so, they send a message that they are unshaken, that they are in control, and that they don't feel the need to justify themselves. This often causes the other person to second-guess themselves, as they do not receive the validation they were seeking. Silence becomes a form of resistance, a powerful way to maintain control over the situation and force the other party to question their actions. In personal relationships, silence can also create an aura of mystery and intrigue. Think about the dynamics of attraction, for instance. People are often drawn to those who do not constantly express their thoughts and feelings. The quiet confidence that comes with silence is incredibly magnetic. People find themselves wanting to know more about you because they can't predict what you'll say or do next. This unpredictability keeps others engaged as they seek to understand the depth behind your silence. In conclusion, silence, when used strategically, is one of the most powerful tools for gaining influence and control. It allows us to create uncertainty, to build anticipation, and to increase our value in the eyes of others. By knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, we not only maintain control of situations, but also shape how others perceive us. Silence forces others to fill the void with their own thoughts and actions, often revealing more than they intended. It's a weapon of psychological warfare that can be used to great effect in both personal and professional environments. In a world that often values constant noise, those who master the art of silence hold the greatest power. True power is often misunderstood in today's world. We are constantly taught that power comes from action, from asserting ourselves, from making noise. But in reality, true power often comes from knowing when to remain silent, when to act with purpose, and when to demonstrate patience. The ability to stay silent in moments of tension or conflict is a rare and powerful skill. It allows individuals to maintain control of themselves and their environment, ensuring that their actions are measured and deliberate rather than impulsive and reactive. People who understand the importance of silence possess a unique form of power. They are not easily swayed by the opinions or emotions of others and are capable of guiding situations with calm authority. The lesson here is simple, yet profound. Silence is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength and emotional intelligence. By choosing to remain silent at the right moments, individuals can avoid unnecessary conflict, prevent rash decisions, and retain the upper hand in difficult situations. Silence allows for reflection, strategy, and observation, giving the individual the space to assess the situation, understand the motivations of others, and make the most informed decision possible. In a world filled with constant noise and urgency, those who can remain calm and quiet have the ability to create a presence that demands respect and admiration. This ability to remain silent and composed is crucial not only in high-pressure situations, but also in everyday life. In personal relationships, for example, silence can prevent arguments from escalating. When faced with a confrontation or disagreement, responding impulsively often leads to regret and further conflict. On the other hand, choosing silence can defuse a situation, giving both parties the time and space to cool down and think more clearly. This pause in the conversation allows for a more thoughtful response, one that is less influenced by emotion and more rooted in rational thinking. Think about a time when you were involved in a heated exchange or a disagreement. In those moments, how often did you feel the pressure to respond immediately, to justify your stance or defend yourself? The need to explain yourself can be overwhelming, especially when you feel you've been wronged. But by taking a step back, remaining silent, and resisting the urge to react immediately, you give yourself the opportunity to maintain control over your emotions and the situation. By not giving in to the impulse to speak, you demonstrate strength, maturity, and emotional control. Over time, this ability to remain silent in moments of conflict not only preserves relationships, but also builds respect from others, as they come to realize that your words are deliberate and meaningful. Patience, another key element of this strategy, is essential in maintaining control. In situations where people might expect an immediate response or action, patience allows you to withhold judgment, to resist the urge to act in haste, and to wait for the most appropriate moment. Patience enables you to respond with clarity, not out of emotion or impulse. This is particularly important in the workplace, where decisions made in the heat of the moment can often have long-lasting consequences. By choosing patience, you make decisions that are aligned with your long-term goals and values, rather than reacting to short-term pressures or emotions. It is in these moments of waiting, of being still, that you can assess all of your options and make the decision that will lead to the greatest success. Patience also fosters resilience, the ability to wait, to endure the discomfort of uncertainty, is a strength that many people struggle with in today's fast-paced world. We are constantly bombarded with messages telling us that success is immediate, that we should expect instant gratification, and that every problem must be solved right away. But the truth is, patience is often what leads to long-term success. It is through patience that we build endurance, that we learn to trust the process, and that we create sustainable growth. Whether in business, personal development, or relationships, those who can practice patience are often the ones who see the greatest rewards in the long run. Take, for example, the career of Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX. Musk's ventures have faced numerous setbacks, delays, and challenges over the years, but his ability to stay patient and focused on his long-term vision has allowed him to achieve success. In the early days of Tesla, there were doubts about the company's future, and many people predicted its failure. But Musk remained patient, believing in his vision for electric vehicles and his commitment to innovation. His ability to navigate through moments of uncertainty with patience and persistence has led to Tesla becoming one of the most successful companies in the world. Musk's story is a testament to the power of patience and how it can lead to success even in the face of adversity. In business, silence and patience are essential for making the right decisions. Think about an entrepreneur who is deciding whether to launch a new product or service. The pressure to act quickly can be overwhelming, especially when competitors are moving fast. However, if the entrepreneur takes a moment of silence, steps back, and carefully assesses the situation, they may realize that the timing is not right. By choosing patience, they can avoid rushing into a decision that could ultimately harm their business. Silence gives them the time to weigh the risks and rewards, to listen to their intuition, and to make a more thoughtful, strategic decision. This patience often leads to greater success in the long term, as the entrepreneur is able to avoid the pitfalls of hasty decision-making. Patience also helps in the development of leadership skills. The best leaders are not those who rush into action without thinking. Instead, they are those who know when to take a step back and observe the situation before taking action. Leaders who practice patience are able to understand the dynamics of the group, assess the needs of their team, and make decisions that are in the best interest of everyone involved. They also know when to hold back and let others take the lead, understanding that sometimes the best way to guide others is by allowing them to step up and make their own decisions. This kind of leadership fosters trust, respect, and loyalty, as others see that the leader is not driven by ego or impulsiveness, but by wisdom and careful thought. In personal relationships, patience is equally important. Relationships require time and effort to develop and grow. People change, evolve, and go through difficult times. By practicing patience in relationships, you allow the other person the time and space they need to grow, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. Patience allows you to support them through challenges without rushing to fix everything or impose your own agenda. It creates a sense of security and trust, as both parties know that they are in a relationship where they can grow at their own pace, without fear of judgment or criticism. The most important aspect of patience, however, is its ability to keep us grounded in the present moment. When we're patient, we stop focusing on the future or the past, and instead, we are able to focus on the here and now. This presence allows us to make better decisions, connect more deeply with others, and live more fulfilling lives. It is through patience that we learn to trust the process, to enjoy the journey, and to appreciate the small moments along the way. When we're patient, we are not just waiting for something to happen, we're taking the time to prepare ourselves, to reflect, and to learn. Patience is not about passivity, but about actively waiting for the right moment to act. It requires self-discipline, emotional control, and a deep understanding of ourselves and our goals. Those who can practice patience are often those who achieve the greatest success, as they are able to make decisions based on careful thought rather than emotional reaction. In conclusion, patience is an invaluable asset in life, business, and relationships. It allows us to maintain control over our emotions and actions, to make decisions that are aligned with our long-term goals, and to navigate through difficult situations with clarity and composure. Silence, when coupled with patience, becomes a powerful tool for influence and success. The ability to remain calm, to wait for the right moment, and to act with purpose is what sets successful individuals apart from those who rush into things without thinking. By practicing patience, we not only achieve our goals, but also develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Patience is not a sign of weakness, it is a mark of strength, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. As we've seen today, silence is far from being just a passive state of inactivity. It is an active, deliberate strategy that has been used by the most influential figures throughout history. Whether you're dealing with a heated argument, negotiating a deal, or simply trying to make sense of a challenging situation, the ability to remain silent, to step back, and to wait for the right moment can make all the difference. Remember, true power is not about always having the last word or rushing to react. It's about knowing when to speak and when to let the silence do the talking. It's about using patience to ensure your actions and words carry weight, and your decisions are aligned with your ultimate goals. The next time you find yourself in a tough situation, take a moment. Don't rush to speak. Instead, use that silence to observe, reflect, and act strategically. I guarantee you'll start to see a difference in how others perceive you and how much more control you have over your life. I hope this video has inspired you to rethink how you approach your interactions, your decisions, and your own power. Silence isn't just an absence. It's a force that can guide you to success. If you found this valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you can stay updated with more insights like this. And if you truly appreciate the content, consider supporting the channel by sending a super thanks. Your support allows us to keep bringing you high-quality videos and insights that help you become the best version of yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.